We've been joined by Professor Alhaji Njai. He's a Pan-Africanist and founder of Project 1808, flanked by Honorable Alpha Khan Alhaji. He's presidential spokesperson. Both of them are here to talk about the fight against Kush generally in Sierra Leone, the new government policies they have enacted, and ways forward to improve the country's education system, among other things. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure having you.
Good morning.
Indeed. I would say assalamu alaikum to you, Alhaji.
Thank you.
Indeed. I see a lot of reforms are being made, towards curbing the emergency we are faced with at the moment, the Kushdemic, which has become, a national, epidemic. A lot of lives, young lives, have been lost in the process. So perhaps, Alhaji, you would bring us up to speed as to the recent developments, around the fight against Kush from the presidency generally.
There are two Alhajis here.
Well,
Alhaji Njai, Alhaji Kanu.
the Islamic Alhaji.
He's also Islamic. Okay. All right. You mean the older Alhaji?
Older Alhaji.
From the same school.
Older Alhaji. From the same school as well?
Oh, yeah. St.
Oh,
Francis.
well, that's beautiful.
It was 1,000 years before him. But he's in the same school still.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mm.
And I'm glad you decided to make this topic for today. This Kush issue is a national crisis. It is a problem that we all have to fight against. It is one that has to be devoid of politics. And before I go any further, I want to recognize the effort of the leadership of the APC, led by Ambassador Ousmane Hassane and the Secretary General Lansana Doumbouya, for them to call the young people yesterday and to talk to them about the necessity for the party, supporters and everybody to come to the fight against Kush. Because Kush does not discriminate. Kush doesn't look at color. Kush doesn't look at which party you belong to. It doesn't want to know your age or anything like that. Kush is a killer. It's a poison that is slowly and definitely killing our people. But it is something that we can't stop. His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada Bio, he has rebuttressed the emergency that he had set about a year or so ago on the 30th of October, when he called a high-level meeting at State House. While he was doing that, I was already in Cambia, passing the message of His Excellency the President for the necessity for everybody, every chief, every section chief, every member of parliament, every stakeholder, every youth, everybody to come in to the fight against Kush. And it was a very, very successful meeting. There, I learned that there were already paramount chiefs who had taken it upon themselves to set up what you call task forces in their chiefdoms. And I'd like to single out the paramount chief of Masimra chiefdom, who earlier had set up a task force to the extent that they have this task force that is chasing anybody who they suspect to be a dealer. And in Lokomasama, I think we can feel proud that up to this moment, we have not yet reported one case of Kush addiction. And that is the paramount chief by Maru Raka III. They are doing what government wants these chiefs to do. So we are very happy that they're doing that. But we have come to also motivate others to join in this fight in much the same way as the whole country came together to fight Ebola, in much the same way as the whole country came together to fight COVID. The leadership itself does not want to see people being addicted, losing their lives, wasting them, because the president's agenda is one of human capital development. But who is it is the core of that human capital development. It is the youth of the country. And these are the people that are being affected. They're not only being affected, they're being killed by this drug. For in fact, on Saturday the 31st, Friday the 31st, he described it as a poison. It is not a drug. He says because drugs can heal you. Some drugs heal you, but this one kills. So it doesn't qualify to be called a drug. It is a poison, and we are going to treat it as such. So for me and him, he says that he's going to treat it as if it is an infectious disease in much the same way as Ebola and COVID. So he's going to use all those strategies and methods that he had put together to fight this. And of course, we are going to establish a 117 call center, just like we did for COVID. Thank you.
Do you think that the Parliament treats this as importantly as the government does, when the Speaker has just recently said that we are overhyping the realities of Kush in Sierra Leone? Those were his words.
Who said that?
The Speaker of Parliament said we are overhyping the situation. Do you think that's the case?
I did not hear that. But if the President sees it fit to call an emergency meeting, the President sees it fit to declare a state of medical emergency, social emergency, I think that is the Kush issue is far from being overhyped. In fact, it is not being talked about enough. It has not been dealt with the way we should. Now is the time for us to shift gears, go up, and really, really try and get to the bottom of it, or to the top of it, whatever it is, in order for us to eradicate it in this country.
You know, this thing came here in 2016. It's now the 9th anniversary, if you like, of Kush in Sierra Leone.
Kush came in 2016?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's been here since 2016. Yes, indeed. Question I wanted to ask is, why has it taken us so long, you know, to
well, you see,
to curb this?
I think it was in the shadows then. In 2016, I was a Minister of Information in the APC government. And never once did I ever talk about it. Because it was in the umbra. I didn't know about it. Now that you mentioned it came in 2016. It shows you that it is not a political problem. It is not the problem of any leader. It is a social problem. It is an invasion by greedy individuals who just want to use any means to wage war on us in order to get what they want, i.e. money. But what good is money? They say, what shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose your own soul? Anybody who deals in Kush will lose his or her own soul. That is for sure. We've been promised by the scriptures for that. So I'm very surprised that it was here that early, because I was Minister of Information and Communication at the time. And I'm only hearing this now. But the way other people, before yesterday, were hyping it as if it was an SLPP problem. It is not. Thank you for bringing that up. And I commend APC for them to actually now say, this is an all of us problem. So we are going to have to fight it. We will join them. I may not go to their office, but I'll invite them for us to meet somewhere so that we can talk about this. We can work together to see how we can eradicate this scourge.
Which is quite rare of a politician in Sierra Leone to hype praises on the other camp. I'm particularly intrigued this morning.
Politics is not meant to divide us. Politics is not meant to divide us. Politics is meant to for us to find strategies, for us to have a united country for development. We can have our different ideologies, but when once decisions have been made by the people, we come together to move the country forward. So thank you for that, but it should not be that way. Politicians should recognize what others are doing, whether they are on the other side, because Kush itself has no color.
Professor Alhaji, what do you make of the reaction or the response government is given so far by the public outcry for actions to be taken against the Kush situation?
Well, I think, first of all, I completely agree with my elder here on the issue of Kush being a national issue. I think this should be treated as such, a national issue. Everyone comes on board. And similarly, the way we worked on Ebola, the way we worked on any form of other threat to the country, we look at country first and then try to look at how do we solve the problem. I think the recent effort, the doubled up effort, is really commendable because that's what is needed. Because, you know, drug substance abuse, when it creeps into a society and you allow it to grow, it allow it to become entrenched, it's one of the most difficult things to deal with. For instance, infectious diseases, you can cut the chain of transmission. You can do that, like we've dealt with Mpox, COVID, and Ebola. But when it comes to drugs, it becomes really challenging. It requires you to dig deeper. It requires sustained effort. And it requires a lot more of, it's what we call a whole societal effort, right? Government has to be, you know, enough leadership. Communities have to be empowered. Education systems have to be empowered in the country. Law enforcement apparatus have to be in place. So the institutions that are naturally put to operate on this have to be given sustained capacity and build their capacity around it. Because again, every drug comes with different knowledge of understanding, right? Kush, you know, we need to know all the characteristics of what is in Kush, the substances, the ingredient that makes up Kush, which may be different from the fentanyls, is different from the other forms of opiates. And based on my own, you know, small bits of research around Kush, the ingredients are really powerful, right? It has a lot of nitazines, very strong opiates, synthetic opiates that are even 150 times much stronger than morphine, right? And it's also, spiked with synthetic cannabinoids and other things. So that means that we are dealing with something, because they say to fight an enemy, you must know the enemy. And that's the only way you can do an effective fight against it. So we need to know what is it, what is the Kush, where it's coming from, what is the mode of action in people, and then from a more medical side, how do you intervene, the treatment side and all this stuff, how do you do, you know, for people who are addicted to it, how do you treat them? And then also we go on to the more social aspect, because the bigger picture is the social aspect. What are the social drivers? What are the stressors? What are the different things that are creating it? And at different levels, because now we see, yes, it is pervasive among youthful populations who are probably coming from more disadvantaged backgrounds, but you see it across the board now, right? You see it in among college students. You see it among people in different walks of life. So we must know the drivers for each of these categories, each of these areas. And that requires social science research. It requires time. It requires getting your data right so that you can intervene right. Because if you don't get the data right, then government will just be throwing resources into things, right? But how do you allocate resources appropriately is by actually getting the right data, the right information, the right sets of ideas around. For instance, we might want to know, in terms of even the Kush, the prevalence, where are the communities that are more prevalent? And in that regard too, you are not also only focusing on those who are addicts already. You see, so when we do basic epidemiology or tracking for diseases, if we have, for instance, let's say we're in this room, we have an Ebola outbreak, and one person is infected. So we are not worried about that one person now. We are looking about maybe 6 of us in this room. Mm-hmm. So you have 5 more people that could be infected. So you look at how do we segment the population? And this is very simple now. If you have the data, you can do data science modeling. You can look at mapping the communities. Look at where you are getting the high concentrations of addicts from, And then those people who are around them will be the high-risk contacts. Those young people who are around places where you have a high population of addicts will be your high risks. And so you are saying, okay, well, let me focus more on this high risk because they will be the next addicts, right? And then you begin to segment it into your medium risk and then to your low risk. So that now government will now begin to prioritize. Where am I going to put resources? Where am I going to put more police officers? Where am I going to put more rehab centers? Where am I going to bring more social work? Where am I going to get more community mobilization? So it's really critical to take on all of this, right? But it also requires long-term that drug substance abuse, issues of that are embedded in the school curriculum starting from the primary level, creating opportunities for prevention, creating opportunities for entrepreneurship, right? Creating opportunities that build creativity among young people. The one way you can take somebody away from drugs is also keeping their mind into something more creative. Their mind is beginning to move into something more positive. Because for young people, you see a lot of young people as Kush addicts, right? But the reason is they are young. The brain is not fully developed when you are young. The brain up to 21, up to 25 is still developing. So when you take, in the US, that is why insurance is very expensive for young people. You know, like if you are a driver, your insurance is very expensive because you are more likely to crash. Because the brain, they take risks, they take a lot of things. And so at that age, these young people are studying their environment. They are experiencing things. They are experimenting different things. So that is why it is very important that we also build a culture of mentoring. Mentoring is a major aspect of this problem, of some of these solutions. And mentoring at all levels, starting from the home. You know, government is there, but the homes are also there. It starts from the home. How much of value systems are being built on young people at the home. And then that continues on to the schools. But the school systems should be a lateral extension, almost a linear and lateral extension of the homes. But I think that's why we got the disconnect too. You see, our colonial education made it that the schools operate parallel to what happens in the community or in the houses. So we don't get the two. So what happens is now you find that people go to a school system, and the school systems are also not giving them the life skills they need. So you can get all the math, all the physics, all the chemistry, all the biology, all the education. You get all these subjects, you learn them, but you haven't learned basic aspects of identity, basic aspects of life skills, basic aspects of leadership. You haven't gotten entrepreneurship. You haven't gotten aspect of your culture, right? My elder here will go to his potloco, I'm sure, in McKinney and communities. He is very vast with the local culture. He is well educated, but he is grounded in the realities of our community, so he understands that. But let me tell you now, I have students in Freetown who have come from the provinces, have gone to school throughout their life in Freetown, in very good school, very talented student. But tell me, they haven't even passed Waterloo. They don't know anything about their own self. So we have to begin to revise things. Revising, it requires, so there has to be these short-term strategies at what the government is doing now, trying to curtail things. But long-term, you must create a medium to long-term, you must build on creating things that will serve as antidotes.
Surely there must be a reason why most youths are magnetized or attracted towards smoking Kush. I know you're a scientist. Perhaps you've done some sort of study on this. What do you think is primordially responsible for this?
So drugs of any type, for the most type, tend to be coping mechanisms, tends to be stress responses, but also it can be peer pressure, right? Peer pressure, peer influences. And, you know, at various levels in our lives, all of us, you will get peer influences. And those peer influences tend to be, you know, a lot. It can be towards something more negative that, you know, then your peers have looked at and say, it's cool to do. So you all begin to think it's cool to do, you know. But, you know, think about how the cultures have evolved, right, over time. Back when I was younger, and I'm sure when my elder here was even more younger, you go to a club and then or to a dance. Maybe there was one place in town, and then you just dance yourself out till you sweat, and then your clothes, you dry that clothes up, and then you come home. There was not much of drugs involved, right? It was just about you going and getting the biggest fun. But these days, you know, we are more globalized. We are highly connected globally. Influences are coming from all over the world.
Westernization, perhaps?
That's it. That's right. Commercialization of things are coming from all over. But that is also where systems, various systems, government, leadership, and all those stuff, you begin to look at how do you create cushions, how do you create filters on what actually comes in, what people are consuming, what your society, what young people are getting, what are they looking at. The US does this very nice thing of painting a rosy picture of things around the world. But actually, when you look at what happens in the US, there is a lot of parental control. Yeah. There is a lot of parental restrictions on what people are looking at in social media, what people are looking at in TV and all that. You cannot drink without getting to 21 years of age legally. Right? They have some of these things in place. They have so many other things in place. But here it's free for all.
Could this be another effect of cultural imperialism?
It is. So these are all the things that some of us as Pan-Africanists we've been talking about. You know, technology is great, but technological colonialism also comes. You know, and cultural imperialism also comes. And so we have to then look at how do we, within our systems, which we really need to do, is how do we empower, you know, our cultures within our education systems so that they also serve as a form of antidote. I mean, I look at Frobe College, the oldest institutions in maybe West Africa, right? And I look at the fact that we should have been the citadel for African studies, African knowledge systems, African studies and all that. You look at, I cannot go to Frobe College and study Timni. I cannot study Mendi. I cannot be there and study Fula. I cannot study Madingo. I cannot do cultural arts in these languages. I cannot do music and dance. I cannot perfect my hip-hop skills using spoken word from my campus. Because when I was, you know, in Wisconsin, which is a white school in America, is studying, you can do Yoruba, you can do Twi, you can do Fula, you can do Madingo, you can do music art, you can do drumming, you can do, so as a scientist, I did all of those things. I took classes in philosophy, I took classes in music, I took classes in drumming. And you do these things because also they are good ways of people exercising all of their talent. Like all of the young people we have now, some of them you meet them who are taking Kush, extremely talented, right? But what have we done? We say you must have these WAS things, this to get to university. You must have this English language to get to university. You must have this sort of things to get to university.
Rigidity.
Rigidity. We haven't created the flexibility to say, what is their own skills, right? You meet a young Guinean now making millions and becoming very rich just playing the drums. He travels all over the world. He's a drummer. And the Kora. The Kora now, these guys are millionaires. The families in Mali and all these people. Look at Yusundu. He never has to leave Africa. He's now one of the biggest artists in Africa.
Professor Njai, the picture you paint now, well, the evidence we've seen, especially when it comes to Kush, contradicts part of the picture you've painted. It's not just unemployed people who have become addicts. We've seen responsible people go from grace to grass just through Kush addiction. So it tells you it's not just a pattern of unemployed people who go into Kush.
No, I think...
And with the conversations now, as we as a country, a continent particularly, try to imitate some of the bad things from the West. So the conversation now is also, how about imitating some of the good things? For example, overseas, going to the club, you require an identification.
Exactly.
If you are below 21, you're not entering a club. In Sierra Leone, we don't have such practices. Anyone who has the money to pay to enter any spot can enter. Nobody cares about your age.
So I think there is a thing here. There is a clear group that is opportunities employment, right? There are, and which, based on all the data, forms the majority. But there are, in every research, in everything that happens, you have, people who are out there that doesn't fit it. So, you'll have university people, you have people in other walks of life and others. But that then becomes the worrying thing. So if you have your elite who should be university people, who should be your professionals, now involved in it, that tells you it's a bigger problem. So then that tells you then there is much more to it. And what are the issues around it? It is still based on issues around breakdown, dysfunctionality in some parts of the society. So I may be a university student, or I may be a professional, but what you may not know, maybe there is a dysfunctionality in my home. There is a dysfunctionality in my community that I am responding to. There is also a mismatch in my skills that I have. So for instance, I have gone through university, and I come out of university and realize, my God, I spent all these 4 years, I studied this thing, and I cannot have the right job, right? And so there is a mismatch in your qualifications. So that creates another level of stress, right? And then also we have to really think about the long arm of the war. That's something we always tend to forget. It's almost like when people talk about colonialism, people feel like, oh, it's way, way past. It's been gone for so many years. And then why are you talking about colonialism? But the long arm of the war is the intergenerational effects of trauma. We moved on quickly to development, after the Civil War. But oftentimes, healing takes a long time. When you break up, you move on, you are never going to get it right, because you haven't healed. And so we move to development without rehabilitation of people, without building the mindset, without building character, without building other things. What you are alluding to me, is one of the things that I've always said. I know government focuses on development a lot, and that is a need. People want to see roads, people want to see good health care, people want to see food, people want to see everything. But to me, what I've always said, the most fundamental thing is character, building character and the mindset of the people in the country. And if you can build that character, then everything else will work. Because if you come in and put even a food program or a health program, if the character is not there, you don't have the right people, then it fails. Yeah. So these are some of the things I think we have to really look at in terms of a more bigger picture of how we handle the things. Of course, if you have your elite, your university people, the people who are up there involved in it, it tells you it's a broader social malaise. And it tells you that something is really, really wrong. And we must now go back deeper, dig deeper. This is why I started by saying our culture then becomes important. The family structures, the values become important. The community structures become important. Because the most important weapon we had in Africa that made us distinct which is what even every part of this world envies, is that in Africa, the adage was, it took a village to raise a child. It took a village to raise a child. The Americans now want to emulate that. The Europeans want to emulate. Everybody now is talking community. Unfortunately, we are moving from it. But in every solution now you go to, everything that is affecting us, whether it's climate change, whether it's healthcare issues, whether it's public health issues, people are going back to the issue of community. Community.
Community interventions.
And community interventions. You may be a highly educated person, you may be a professional, but if you come from a broken family, you will get into drugs. This is why you are seeing some people. So anyone you see with a university degree or a professional, look them. If you do the social science, go back to where they are coming from. Look back that. It is always a coping mechanism. It's a stress response. So what we fail to look at, we look at success from degrees. We forget that success is not degrees you have. Success is based on the whole. It's based on your environment, your family, the communities you are building, because all of those are integral. If I give you something today and you say, hey, Doctor or Alhaji, thank you, I feel very happy. Why? Because there is serotonin. The body releases serotonin. It's like my body, this serotonin makes you hug yourself. The body hugs.
Clapping for yourself.
Yeah, clap for yourself, right? That's the thing. So that's what it is. But if you are not getting that, you are just like, I have gotten all these degrees, now I'm successful, you are up there, you are thin. No, it doesn't work. Sometimes there is so much more, and people talk about lonely at the top and all those kind of things. But one of the things that is important for us is culture and community. In Kwenadugu, let me give you an example. In Kwenadugu, one of the beautiful cultures we have in Kabbalah, which is in some part of the north, is the griot, the jeliba. I grew up with the jeliba culture. In Kranko, they call it the Finaba, in the Fula, the Gaulo. They serve a very important purpose in our cultures. When I go around Kabbalah town, the jeliba will meet me and remind me, Alhaji, you are this Njai. Njai was a great founder of Senegal, and this, that, Njai Jata, you are a lion, you are powerful, your lineage was very powerful, you were the kings, you did all this stuff. But what is that telling me?
It releases the serotonin in you.
It releases serotonin in me, but also it gives me a sense of identity. And it also centralizes me in society. It says, I cannot be any less. So the community expects nothing less of me. So that means that sense of identity that has been built in me by those Jeliba, I cannot disappoint them.
So while we work on that end, could we also, on the flip side, look at policies that can be instituted? In the West, to enter a club, you have to be 21, produce an ID. To get access to alcohol from stores, you have to be 21.
Absolutely.
In Sierra Leone, it's a free pass. Anyone can get access to alcohol. Anyone can enter a club if you have the money to pay, if they're asking for payment. Locations where it's free entry, anyone can enter. Could these also be some of our short-term maybe solutions to the problem?
It's not even short term.
Immediate response.
This should be ongoing, should be policies, should be laws that are there. This should be there. And also, we need to understand the ingredient, the product Kush. We need to know each of the constituents and actually have strong regulations to make sure, if I go, for instance, I say I want formaldehyde, they should know exactly why am I using it for? What am I using? It should be regulated, because then that's how you cut the supply chains. You should know, like for instance, in the US, young people were taking hairspray to campus. They were taking it to school. Well, hairspray has 50% alcohol, and they were inhaling hairspray as alcohol in schools. So when that is known by authorities, what happened? Now there is regulation. You cannot, as a young person, buy hairspray. You cannot also take it to a locker room, to a school. So we have to know the ingredient and also go after those ingredients as well as the product, right? So all of those things are important policies that have to be put in place. But it has to be coordinated too. It has to be coordinated. There has to be education around it. There has to be stricter measures around this, and there has to be some more policies that are supported. But the resources have to be there as well. The resources need to be there to make sure the institutions that are mandated to do these programs have the resources needed to execute. Because if you can have all the good policies, but if you cannot implement them, that's a problem, right? That's a problem. So I think this is why these are very important, but it has to be, if you do the policies, you educate people as well. All the communities have to be aware of these things, and everybody has to be part of that. I think it's, underage things like driving, penalties for, higher insurance for being underage. Some things have to be done in such a way it discourages people, so people cannot access, drugs or other things.
Alhaji Kanu, you've listened to Professor. Are there any things that the government could learn from his submissions? You said a lot of things, actually.
A lot. Mm-hmm. Professor is a very seasoned virologist himself, mm-hmm. Scientist, well-known, lands outside of Sierra Leone. He's decided to come home and help us. He could stay out there like other people, greener pastures. But he's sacrificed to come and work with us in Sierra Leone. And he doesn't only stay here, he's up country with his people in Kanu. So what he's saying is actually drawing from the experience of our childhood when we were young. The village raises children. There is no child in any village who doesn't have an uncle or grandfather or an uncle's brother who would sort of control them in the absence of the parents. This is lacking these days. And the point that has been raised also about the control of the age limit for the consumption of alcohol, for driving, for attending nightclubs and things like that. It's very important. When we were younger, we didn't go to nightclubs. We were allowed to go to what they call a fit. I didn't call it now. You have another name for it now. We used to call it a fit, Sunset dance. And you come home before 7 o'clock. After that, you don't go anywhere.
Jump.
You go to jump. You go to jump. We went to the fit. All right? However, that's all missing now. The children go to the nightclubs and stay till morning. The beach is an open street nightclub, open sky nightclub, everywhere, that kind of thing. So these are things that must be controlled. And I believe that there are laws actually in this country. It is a case of digging them up, dusting them, and either probably enhancing their potency for us to go back to that.
How can we force these nightclubs to adhere, particularly?
Sorry?
How can we force these clubs,
I told you
pubs to do these things?
There are laws. There are laws.
But they're not using them.
First of all, to sell alcohol, you need a license. Before, you used to have a license. You don't have it, you can't sell beer. You can't sell this. But people just don't have dealers, what do you call them, dealers and distributors and all that. They don't have a single certification. Sorry?
Can we force them to adhere to the laws?
Yes, because the law is there. It's a matter of enforcement. But with all this now, impinging on the lives of our children and encouraging this addiction to drug and all that, because alcohol itself in some form, like the Tota Pack and the Beta Cola, these are drugs. It's a high level of alcohol, about 40% proof, that kind of thing. That's poison, and people consume it. And I think one of the things that will start, so first of all, we should actually outlaw the production of these things in this country. We don't need Tota Pack. We don't need Beta Cola. There are other things that children can get to. But to come to the control of Kush, I think the strategies that were used in the fight against Ebola, the fight against COVID, and the fight against Mpox should again be activated. These were anchored on 3 arms. First, the preventive. The largest portion of the population has not started Kush. over 99% of us don't use it. So that is the emergency, to prevent our people from getting in there, into that addiction. Then you have the treatment centers, the medical side, for those who have already been hooked on it. Have the rehab centers, have the detox centers, and also have the psychosocial counseling after they would have been weaned out of it, and then rehabilitate them and reintegrate them into society by giving them skills that they can use as lifelong skills. Then the next thing is enforcement. The enforcement itself, it can be done by the police or by special task forces, and the military can combine. We used this before. We used to quarantine Ebola victims. We used to quarantine COVID victims, sometimes in their own homes. Maybe we should start looking at these things like this. If we don't have enough rehab centers, let us look at holding centers within communities where we can take people with security outside to make sure that at least they don't get the supply, and also try to detox them while they're there. We did that for COVID and it worked. We did that for Ebola and it worked. Mpox also. This quarantine thing, it works. Shutting down whole communities, like he's saying. If you map out and then you see that there is an epicenter, an area where the drugs is prevalent, more prevalent than anywhere, shut it down. You shut it down and all that, with the military and all that. So we can put all these things into place because we have them. Then the importation of those elements that make up the composition of Kush. He talked about things like netazines, which I don't know. My chemistry didn't take me that far. Morphine, I know it's an opiate and all that. But these are things that are not found locally. They come in from somewhere. Like the opiates, I'm sure it's a derivative of opium. Those are grown from in Asia Minor, so far away. How did it get here? The cocaine that people use also has its own potency. It's not grown here. It's in South America and all of those areas. So there are ways you can stop the supply of these things. Outlaw them completely. Even the harmless, it looks seemingly harmless painkiller called tramadol. When overused, it becomes a potent drug. So there are ways through the pharmacy board where this can be controlled. Like Professor is saying, that there should be some identification and reasons for buying certain products. He mentioned fentanyl. I don't even know if we have that here. But he mentioned also formaldehyde freely. Even if you are going to import it. In fact, I think we should discourage ordinary business people from making it a commercial entity to bring it into sale to mortuaries and homes for the dead. That we can stop. So that only those people who have business with it are allowed to import it into the country. It shouldn't be a business. It shouldn't be a trading item. It should be controlled, imported only by professionals who know how to handle it and why they want it. So I think the policies, some of them already exist. I'm sure it exists because in the colonial times, there were laws. Even retail trade during that time was controlled. There's only a certain class of people who can do what, who can import what. But this exists. But His Excellency, the President, has asked us as advisors to try and work with the Ministry of Justice, the Attorney General's office, to try and dig up some of these old legislations, to see if they can be dusted and brought up. You know that the President's last meeting on the 30th of October, on Thursday, he has said that the laws that exist for the control and for the enforcement of drug proliferation should be strengthened, which means that they should be amended to be made more restrictive for people to be able to do this. So my advice is that we go back to the strategy of controlling infectious diseases. You have the preventive section, which is all of us, the community, 99.9%. We are the emergency. Our children and all that have the danger of being sucked into this whirlpool of addiction. So that is the emergency, keeping the unaffected population now safe from it. Then treat those that have been affected, compartmentalize them, put them into holding centers, quarantine them in their homes, if you know where they are. Because they say the children, they are not the perpetrators, they are victims, as we have said. So if that is the case, they should not be treated as the criminals. They should be treated with sympathy and empathy. We should find a way. If you can't take them to a rehab center, but you know where they are, if there's a safe room in the house, like we did for Ebola, like we did for COVID, a safe room in the house, bring 1 or 2 security officers in there, keep them there until they pass the incubation period, as they call it, of detoxification. So this can be done. So it will ease the problem of having a large number of rehab centers all over the country. But there are people now, private people, who are getting involved in the establishment of rehabilitation centers. I know of Honorable Ibrahim Bundu in Port Loko, who used to be the leader of the APC in Parliament. He is now set up a whole rehabilitation center, a quite modern one, where he told me last week that Professor Fodesar visited him, but I was in Cambia at the time, so I couldn't be there for that visit. I was there when he was opening it. In fact, I gave the keynote address. This should be incorporated into the normal system of rehabilitation centers of government. There's another lady also who came from America in Cambia, and she set up another rehabilitation center, which is functional now. The only thing is that it is limited in terms of beds. It can only take in 20 people. So something has to be done. If we cannot take all of these people there, so for those who are in Cambia and can't get in, let us find in their communities safe places where they can be supervised and treated. So this is what I think that can be done. But the enforcement should really focus on the dealers, focus on the importers, focus on the entry points of the country. And that enforcement can be effective if the police have the support of the community. That is why Professor is saying that even in the US, in the Western world, they are not trying to go back to community interventions, because this individualism doesn't work. Depending on government alone and professors alone is not enough. The professor has to work with the community for his work to be made easier. I keep saying it, and the president said that in Cambia on Friday last week. The police are just so many of them, so many. Total cannot be more than 30,000, 40,000 police. And we want them, that's fine. That's why the idea of setting up another is call center, a 117 call center, with these holding centers in areas, will do as well. Call 117. As soon as you notice that something is wrong within your community, call 117. Nobody knows you did it. You don't have to go and report to anybody. Just call 117, and they will be there. And when they are there, they will then take you to that rehab center and then ask you who you bought it from. And then you follow the chain backwards until you get to the dealer. And the dealer will take you to the importer. So this is the kind of thing that we'll work on. The president is working very hard, and we are going to join the NPHA in implementing this policy.
Finally, I'll quote the president on this. He said, as a president, I am resolutely determined to bring all those involved in this trade to justice. We will clean our streets and eliminate this threat using all lawful means available. End of quote. President Biu posted these actual words on his Facebook page following his visit to the PTMC last Thursday.
Exactly.
The final question will be, are, words backed by much needed resources to do this?
Well, it's backed by what is available.
Okay.
You see, they say you kill the snake with the stick you have at hand. Whatever we have today, let us do it.
Okay.
That is why I'm suggesting this establishment of these communities, task forces, this 117, to help the police in detecting, and also quarantine people in their own localities. When you remove them from locality, that is the scary part. Even their parents will hide them because they're going away, like what happened in Ebola. When you take people, we used to take people to Kailahun from Lokomasama, take people from to Kenema, from Bo. And people don't like that. They know that when they go there, they may not see their relatives anymore. But when we started putting holding centers in the communities, then the community all came and coalesced around us, and we worked faster to try and eliminate that. So all these things can only work when we take the community approach, the strategy of bringing every stakeholder on board.
Professor Njai, what are your departing words this morning?
No, I completely agree. Stringent measures by government, law enforcement, being vigilant, have some resources, get the community. Community are very resourceful. They know their people, they have the bylaws, they have the local cultures, and then integrating it with schools, building on drug substance abuse prevention programs in schools, colleges, and all sectors of life. This is something, for long now, I have been doing in Kabbalah. In fact, in January 14 to 16, we are doing our Science and Leadership Festival again, where we bring young people from all over the country, including the district in Kwenadugu, to do science, technology, engineering, art, math. They get exposed to leadership, entrepreneurship. They get exposed to many things, 3-4 days of doing this. But currently in Kabbalah, what we are doing in the community with our college there is a green yard initiative with all the schools. So we bring all the school kids from the different schools. They come and learn how to do tree nursery, how to do food crop cultivation, and then they do digital literacy, and then we talk about drug substance abuse. But what is important in all of that is that you empower the minds. If you don't give the minds at that young age something,
you occupy
the mind with some positivity, and you begin to think that they can move into this. We have some of the most intelligent people here in West Africa. Sierra Leoneans are very intelligent. The young people are very, very intelligent. When I teach students from Sierra Leone, and I've had the opportunity to bring my student from the US and student from Sierra Leone, put them in the same class, you see how my students in the US are like, wow, these guys are too. They're so very, very intelligent. But what it is that at that young age, if that intelligence is not directed to the positive way, then that's where it becomes a challenge. And so sometimes the issues of drugs, you see, is a response to the environment not providing what they need.
Okay, Professor Njai, thank you so much.
My
Alhaji Alpha.
Thank you.
Kanu. Thank you very much.
Another question?
No.
Words.
I think we are running off now.
Okay, thank you
if
very
you want
much.
to say anything.
Thank you very much. So what you have just said, Professor, is really the healing part, the preventive part. And I think we should be very, very serious about it. I also continuously act as the social mobilization consultant for the NPHA in the Northwest region. When this meeting was held by His Excellency the President, I was out of Freetown. Now, when I leave the studio, I'm going to go to the NPHA, meet with my colleagues there, and let us plan, because the President has given us the mandate to go ahead and then come back to him if we need funds, because he will do that. Ministry of Finance is under instructions to empower this NPHA and all other stakeholders who will be involved in this to ensure that they have the funds they need to execute their mandate. So that is it. Thank you very much. And I'm talking to Sierra Leoneans. Excellency the President is doing enough. He's doing very, very well for us. He controlled COVID, and we lost only about 121 people, when places like the US and all that were losing millions of people with the very little medical facilities we had. It is just by putting the right strategies, like quarantining, like lockdowns, like prevention and all that. So that is what we are going to do. We're going to use that. It worked before. It worked for Ebola. It has worked for Mpox. It worked for COVID. This, it will work for us. We don't want to be like Haiti, where the drug lords will take over the country.
Right.
Thank you.